We've also reached the time of year, though, where everybody is prognosticating the great heights that people can reach or the bottom that people can reach. Case in point, Albert Breer was on Two Pros and a Cup of Joe. It's a morning show. We got Jonas Knox, Brady Quinn, and LeVar Arrington. Here's Albert Breer from the NFL Network. He said this about the relationship between Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick.
I don't think we would ever hear that Bill Belichick was fired. I don't think Robert Kraft has it in him to do what Jerry Jones did to Jimmy Johnson in 1994. I think, Robert Kraft is going to want any separation with Bill to be amicable. And you can see it in the way that Kraft handled the breakup with Brady. Yeah. He was so concerned over how that looked, and he wanted to make sure that it didn't look like they were kicking Tom out the door. I think in the case of Belichick, my guess would be if he did feel it was time to move on, he would probably exhaust every avenue to try to make the split look amicable. And there's a chance, in a situation like that Bill would say no and say, just fire me if you're going to fire me. But it's hard for me to envision a scenario where Kraft would just outright fire. By the way, guys, that I do think that he has his next guy lined up in Gerard Mayo.
Now, having your next guy lined up is a completely reasonable thing to do. I think every boss has the next person lined up, right? And while we make the marriage analogy, you don't really do it in marriage. That's a bad idea. But in business, got to have it's the old. They used to say this in minor league basketball, right? 5 in the court, 5 on the bench, 5 on the bus on the way over, and 5 in your desk on the way to get to the bus to replace the 5 on the bus that are replacing the 5 on the bench that are replacing the 5 on the floor. You got, was it clear and present danger? The average Ruski doesn't take a dump without a plan, son, right? But just because you have his ultimate replacement right there waiting, and it's Mayo, a guy who is a great player and a respected guy, now running your defense, and there's that. I mean, they had Josh McDaniels there. He was the heir apparent forever. He was waiting as well. Look, sometimes you can only work with people for so long, and when you win as much as they won, it creates remarkable and ridiculous expectations. But this is a belief that I have, and you guys can shoot this down all you want. I think that Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers destroyed 3 teams and their relationships with their coach or with their star player. First, you have the Patriots, right? And if we look back, that was a crazy year. It was the COVID year. They had 8 opt-outs. They were in cap hell. All of that made total sense. But it's still, the guy is synonymous with winning. You're synonymous with winning. He leaves. He goes and wins the Super Bowl. And they drafted Mac Jones. They tried the weird coordinator position, not having an offensive coordinator last year, not having anybody who knew what they were doing calling plays. The whole thing was bizarre. Okay. Then you have Aaron Rodgers. If you remember that year, Aaron Rodgers, they played at home against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Championship game. Brady was great in the first half, unbelievable ball on a defensive miscue at the end of the first half, terrible in the second half. Rodgers had the ball, and his head coach chose to kick on 4th down instead of go for it, regardless of whether or not Rodgers was playing well late or not. It didn't matter. Then you lose at home to the Buccaneers, and Tom Brady takes off his helmet, and he looks like $1 million. Whereas Aaron Rodgers takes off his, and he just looks like a ragged old road warrior. His face is sullen. He's unshaven. Looked like he hadn't bathed in months. Whereas Tom Brady looks like fresh out of the shower, ready for the runway. I think that had a dramatic effect on Aaron Rodgers and their relationship. And look at what's happened in the 2 years since. And then in the Super Bowl, remember Russell Wilson was sitting next to Roger Goodell. And these guys aren't dumb. They're like, wait, you can go somewhere else and go to a ready-made winner that only needs a quarterback and only needs leadership. That's what Russell Wilson thought he was getting with the Denver Broncos. He just wasn't good enough. And the coach wasn't good enough. And now he'll get a second chance at that. I believe that year of Tom Brady, people have completely forgotten they were not good. And then the 4-game winning streak out of the late bye was against 4 non-playoff teams. And they found a way to magically, they won a home game. They won all those road games, Probably shouldn't have beaten the Saints. Saints fumbled with the lead in Tampa territory. Saints started to beat them twice in the regular season. They found a way. They overcame Brady's own mistakes, his 3 interceptions in the second half against Green Bay. And won. And I think it destroyed those other teams. You're like, are you kidding me with this dude? Are you freaking kidding me that he can take off his helmet and look like $1 million and suddenly be ready to go? Like, just switch teams and he's back winning a Super Bowl. It set unrealistic expectations for the two, like for the Jets now or for the Broncos last year, and it planted a seed of a divorce. It's like if you go out and you see a couple that, they're each on their second marriage, and you're like, man, they're really happy, and you're really unhappy in your relationship. Like, I want some of that happiness. It happens.